Good morning, everyone. Welcome to episode 11 of the Willow Cove Crafts podcast, a podcast about knitting and sewing and my other crafty endeavors. My name is Emily, and you can find me on both Ravelry and Instagram as Willow Cove Crafts. Today is Sunday, September 26th, 2021. And I am coming to you from just outside of Madison in Verona, Wisconsin. It has been about 2 weeks since I last recorded, and we have been up to a couple different things. So last Saturday, Dan and I went to my friend Lisa's wedding reception. Her and her husband got engaged and then were subsequently impacted by COVID and lockdown. So they actually got married last summer in a very small ceremony. And then just last weekend, we were finally able to celebrate with them, which was really lovely. I think my favorite part, and I have some video of this that I will add to the end of this episode, but Lisa's father-in-law has a boat and their wedding reception was right on must have been Lake Monona in Madison. And so they were doing boat rides. And so we had a little sunset boat ride at the wedding. And then, when we got back, we had dinner and dancing and all that fun stuff. So we had a really lovely time and, so happy that they finally got to have the wedding celebration that they wanted. What else? This past week, I had a couple days off of work. I had some vacation time that I needed to use up, and I just decided to take a little staycation. So I was off of work for 3 days last week, which was really lovely. I love to travel, but I also, at my core am a homebody. And so staying home to just do whatever I want is super luxurious. So I got a lot of knitting done over the last week because I wasn't at work. And then yesterday was Saturday. We went to our friend's house to watch, we're in the Madison area, so we are Badger fans. So we watched the Badger football game against Notre Dame yesterday. And then we, after that, drove down to New Glarus, which is a kind of a popular town in Wisconsin. New Glarus has a really well-known brewery, and every September they do an Oktoberfest, which is one of my favorite events of the year. And so one of my best friends lives in New Glarus, so Dan and I drove down and spent some time with her and her boyfriend at the Oktoberfest. And it was so nice to get to do that again because obviously it got canceled last year. And yeah, I love Oktoberfest. I would love to go to Germany's Oktoberfest someday. It's a bucket list item for me. To get us started today, I wanted to send out a huge thank you to everyone who watched, liked, subscribed, commented off of my last video. I was really overwhelmed with the response. It's so awesome to hear from so many of you. If you haven't watched my previous episode, I was hosting my 100 subscriber giveaway, and I had asked what you all were looking forward to knitting this fall, and it was so fun to read through your comments. I tried to respond to everyone, so hopefully I accomplished that, and if I missed your comment, I apologize. I really tried to respond to everyone that commented on that video, so a big thank you. I love interacting with you all, so yes. Let's talk about the giveaway. So again, last episode I had hit 100 subscribers, and I wanted to show my thanks to all of you by giving out a prize. And so I went into my personal stash and pulled out a skein of Hue Loco. This is her Phyllis sock base, which is a 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon in the Sweet Notes colorway. So this is part of the prize, and then as a little supplemental prize, I'm throwing things. As a little supplemental prize, I went and purchased some tuft woolens in the pink grapefruit scent. This is the Tuft Woolens hand balm. So it looks like a little stick of deodorant, but you just, rub a little bit on your hands, and it's, a lotion bar. And I am a big fan of Tuft Woolens. I have probably 10 to 15 of these lying around my house in various places. So anyways, this is the prize. So what I did was, to enter the giveaway, you had to leave a comment on my last video letting me know what you were looking forward to knitting this coming fall. And we had 44 entries. So what I did was I used commentpicker.com, which is a website where you can plug a YouTube URL in and it will identify unique commenters, and then it will pick one. So again, there was 44 entries, and using that commentpicker.com, the winner is M. Morrison. And they had put that they are looking forward to knitting pumpkins because they are quick and easy and super cute. So that does sound really cute. I love little knitted stuffies. So again, the winner is M. Morrison. I'm gonna post this video and kind of let M. Morrison see this and hopefully be excited that they are the winner. So if you are M. Morrison, please direct message me on Ravelry or Instagram. Again, my handle is Willow Cove Crafts. If neither of those options work, you can please email me at willowcovecrafts@gmail.com. Hopefully one of those methods, you'll be able to get in contact with me to send me your address so I can get your prize shipped out to you. So thanks everyone again for entering. I really appreciate your support. This was so much fun, and maybe there will be other giveaways in the future. This week I have no finished objects, and I have several new works in progress. I think last episode I kind of went on about how I was really looking forward to finishing up some of my current whips and, pumping out some finished objects for the things that I had started and were maybe hibernating a little bit. So naturally, I went and started 2 new projects, of course. I've been feeling, I keep using the word undisciplined and like scattered. I think ultimately I am really overwhelmed by my stash, and like I love it, and I look at it and just want to start all of those projects. And yes, it's hard to explain, but I have a lot of castonitis. I wish I didn't. In my perfect world, would be a completely monogamous knitter. I would start a project, I would finish it, and start up with the next one. But I don't know about you all, but I have a really hard time when I get to like halfway done with a project and then I just like want to abandon ship and start something new. I'm trying really, really hard not to do that. But yes, I started some new things, and you know, I kind of viewed it as a little bit of a reset. I've been feeling really off in terms of my knitting, and so I just wanted like a fresh project, something that maybe it doesn't take too long to finish. So I'll talk about that in a bit, but you know, I just decided, you know, especially because I had that vacation time, like, you know, maybe stop putting so much pressure on myself to finish things and just work on something that I really, really want to start. So yes, I do want to be, the appeal of being a monogamous knitter for me, I kind of think back to when I was a brand new knitter, and I definitely was monogamous. I would start a project, I would work on it, and then I would finish it, go to Michael's and buy the yarn for the next project. And I feel like I found more joy in knitting back then. I was more content with this one project. I could really like settle into it. I really enjoyed the process. And there was like this confidence in knowing that I was gonna finish that thing and I was gonna be able to wear that thing. And now I feel like I've lost that confidence. Like when I start a project, I don't always know if I'm gonna finish it anytime soon. And that just like makes me feel a little frantic about it. And then now I have this huge stash that I wanna knit, and you know, I have a little bit of like side eye towards it. Like, ooh, what's over there? Like, you know, what else could I be working on? And, you know, I like the idea of working on one project just to like kind of get back to how I used to feel about knitting, which was just this like pure contentment to be working on this one thing. I do feel like I used to get a lot more joy out of knitting for that reason. I still obviously love knitting and get a lot of joy out of it, but there's just like a certain frenzy around it now. It's really hard to explain, but maybe some of you understand. Like, I just want to like be knitting and like start the next thing, and you know, I want to start practicing like slowing down and like being content with what I'm working on. And it's like, why am I rushing to finish this project? The whole reason I knit is because I like the process of knitting. So I shouldn't be, you know, trying to churn out finished things. I should just enjoy what I'm working on and like really settle into a project. Anyways, I'm rambling. I hope that kind of makes sense. So a little reset was necessary, I think. And I'm hoping, you know, this new project, I'll finish it, and then, you know, maybe I'll pick an old project and finish that up. Best laid plans, am I right? I did put some work into a couple of my older projects since I last recorded, so I will show you those, and then I will move into my newer cast-ons. So the first project that you have seen before is my pair of socks. If you have watched previously, you'll know that I always like to have one pair of socks on the go. And currently, I am working on a pair of socks to gift my mom for Christmas. And I am knitting, them out of Regia sock yarn, which is a 75% wool, 25% nylon. And this is what it looks like in the ball. I really wanted to knit my mom a pair of like traditional Christmas socks this year. I try and knit her a pair of socks for Christmas every year, but they kind of run the gambit of what colors they are. And this year I wanted something really festive. And I am still on the first sock, but here it is. So I put a marker where I was last time, which is right here. So since then, I have knit the heel flap and gusset, and I'm now working down the foot. Whenever I knit my mom's socks, I always do 72 stitches on a US size 1. Just because my mom, well, we all have pretty wide feet, myself included. It's must be genetic. But she also likes her socks to be a little roomier. So yeah, I cast on some extra stitches whenever I knit her a pair of socks. But then I kind of, you know, from there stick to my regular recipe, which I usually do about 7 inches on the leg before starting the heel flap and gusset. And then my mom has a size 10 foot, so I will knit the foot to that appropriate length. The other modification I made, and I always usually do this for any sort of striped or patterned sock, but, and you can kind of see my ends, I will pull from the opposite end of the ball when I do my heel flap and gusset, or I suppose the gusset I keep going, but the heel flap and heel turn, I will pull from the opposite end of the ball so as not to disrupt the striping sequence on the rest of the sock. So that is those. I don't think I said, I'm sure we're all kind of familiar with this yarn, but this is the design line by Arnie and Carlos, and the color is 3760. And again, this is the tag. This is a very popular yarn, so I'm confident that a lot of you have heard of it. And again, those will be for my mom as a Christmas gift. Next up is my, what I'm considering to be my long-term project at the moment, and that is my Slipstravaganza blanket by Stephen West. Previously, I had said, I am on the bubble section, which I will show you in a minute. And this blanket is getting big and a bit, I'm losing some steam on it. I definitely want to finish it and really push through to get the finished object, but I am losing some steam. And so my goal right now is to knit a bubble stripe on the blanket for every finished object. And I do have a sewing finished object today that I will show you in the sewing section. So because I finished a project, I knit a stripe on this blanket. So I don't know if I will continue to show this blanket every episode because I might not necessarily work on it. But that is my plan, is when I finish something else, I will work on the blanket for a couple days to do a bubble stripe. So here it is currently. Let me back it up, get this string out of the way. It looks very similar to last time, except, where's my marker? Last episode, I had just finished this light blue stripe and had started on this pink stripe. So I did a little bit of knitting on this pink stripe to finish up the pink. And there are a lot of stitches on the needle, so one of those stripes, while it does not seem like a lot, it is a lot of knitting. I am using, I'm just gonna grab a random skein, the yarn that is called for in the pattern, which is the Westwool Tandem DK. This is a 90% Falkland Merino, 10% Texel, and this is Stephen West's brand of yarn, so he used it in this blanket design, and I purchased this directly from the Stephen and Penelope shop in Amsterdam. And I will quick go through my colors for you. So my main color is white peach. The yellow is Glow. The light blue is Glass. The teal is Norway. The pink is Roswitha, I believe. The white is Birch Tree. This brick red is Kardemumma. And then I'm repeating those colors up here. So I did quick start my next stripe, which I am doing in the teal, but I have not done much with it. Just kind of got that established. And then, like I said, I probably won't pick this up to work on until I finish another project. But there are 12 total bubble stripes, so that'll be 10 more finished objects to finish this section. And then I'll have to figure out how I want to handle the rest of the blanket, or like what milestones I want to reach for that blanket. I would be curious if any of you out there are similar to me in that, like, for your bigger projects, you kind of set a specific milestone. I would consider myself pretty like analytical thinking, and so kind of setting like very discrete milestones is something I do a lot, and it helps me kind of wrap my brain around a larger project. So I'd be curious if any of you out there are the same, and that I'm not being silly for being like 1 stripe per finished object. Yes, let me know. Also, over the last few weeks, I have put a little bit of work into my Illuminate sweater. This is the Illuminate by Andrea Mowry. Let me back it up. I didn't get a ton of work done on this because I was distracted by some of my new cast-ons, but I did add, looks like 2 stripes since last time. So I tried this on recently, and as you can see, I am on one of the darker stripes. I think I'm gonna do this dark stripe, and then I will do one of the light pink stripes, and then I will start the ribbing on the bottom. I think it will be a pretty good length after I do 2 more stripes. The yarn I am using, so the kind of darker colored yarn is Spincycle dyed in the wool in the rusted rainbow colorway. This is a 100% American wool. It is a sport weight, and Spincycle is very popular these days. The colors kind of shift and looks really stunning. And then the contrast color in this pattern is a mohair held double. I am using the Isager silk mohair, which is 75% kid mohair, 25% silk in the rose colorway. So that is them together. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about this. This is maybe hibernating a little bit. Like I said, I haven't worked on it really in the last week. The work I did do on it was shortly after I last recorded, and now it's just kind of sitting. I will definitely get back to it sooner rather than later, I hope. I was participating in the Illuminate knit along that was hosted by I forget their names or their handles. It's Sam and Kayla, but I can't remember what their Instagram names are. I'll put it in the show notes. And I believe their knit along ends in mid-October, and I have kind of let go of the idea of finishing this sweater by that date. This is why I typically don't participate in knit alongs. Not that I don't like them and appreciate them, but I just don't like putting pressure on myself to finish something by a certain date. I really hate deadline knitting. So I will occasionally make an exception, but I feel like I have never finished a knit along by the end of the knit along date. So this time is no exception. So I love this sweater. I plan on finishing it. It's just not going to be done by the middle of October, I don't think. But it is so very pretty. I'm excited to wear it. But I do want to finish up a couple other things before picking this one back up. As I mentioned, I also started 2 new knitting projects. One of them is a gift, and it is on a little bit of a deadline. I've mentioned in previous episodes that I have a lot of friends who are either having babies within the next few months or have already had their babies this summer. So my friend Kayla is having a baby girl in December, and I knew she was having a baby. I knew I wanted to make something for the baby, and I felt like I had just a ton of time to make something. And then that baby shower invitation showed up in the mail, and I was like, this baby shower is in a month. I need to get going and actually complete my gift. So I decided to, I'm dropping things again. So I've got 2 things that I am planning on making for Kayla's baby. One knitting, one sewing, and they kind of have a theme. So the knitting portion, I am making the Mimi bonnet by, I believe it's French, so it's Oceane LM is the name of the pattern designer. I'll put that in the show notes. It's spelled like ocean with an E at the end, so I believe that's like Océan or Océan. I took a little bit of French in high school. And the pattern is only available in French. So, you know, I've knit several bonnets before, so I kind of like looked at it and, you know, it's not in English. I do not speak fluent French. I especially don't speak, you know, knitting jargon French. But I was like, you know what? I think I can figure this out. The pattern is, let me show you a picture. If you can see this, it's a bonnet, but it has these cute little bunny ears coming off of the sides. And yeah, even though I don't speak French, I thought, you know, I understand bonnet construction. I've knit several bonnets before, so I think I can probably figure it out. And for the most part, things are going pretty smoothly. This is what I have so far. I am using some leftover yarn. I had previously knit a hat out of this yarn, but it is Emma's Yarns. Her practically perfect sock, which is 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon. I will have to go look at my old hat project, my notes on Ravelry, to remember what the colorway name is, but this is, I believe, Whisper, which is just a white, a cream. But yes, this is where I am at. I actually need to rip back a little bit, I think. Again, things were going pretty smoothly. I had a general idea of what was happening in the pattern, but there was one part, I kid you not, I sat and like looked at it for a half an hour trying to figure out what this row, just a single row of knitting, trying to figure out what it was saying. The pattern is probably perfectly clear, but again, there's just a little bit of language barrier there. You know, most bonnets are a pretty similar construction where you knit flat to kind of create the neck hole, and then you end up joining in the round to do the crown decreasing. So the knitting flat piece, like that was pretty clear. And then the crown decreases, the way she has it written in the pattern, like even as a non-French speaker, it's pretty intuitive, I would say. She has it kind of charted, so that makes it easy. But the transition row from knitting flat to knitting in the round has really stumped me. Because you do some decreases, and so I know like you have to go from a certain number of stitches and do some decreases to get to another number of stitches, and I just don't understand how it works. So anyways, I just decided to like go with it and just make something up. So the setup round, like I said, has some decreases, and my decreases you can kind of see here. I am assuming the intent was to have your setup round decreases line up with your crown decreases, which is completely possible the way the numbers work, but mine do not, and I've decided I cannot live with it. So I think I'm gonna actually rip out, you know, about 1/2 inch to the start of my crown decreases and just reknit that and get those decreases to line up. I think, you know, I don't know if it's what's written in the pattern, but I think I can figure out how to make that work. I think I've said this before, but my general philosophy with knitting is to rip it back if it is not right. I kind of believe that you're spending so much time on this handmade thing. I would rather take a little bit of extra time to redo something if it's not correct. Especially something like this where we're talking about, you know, less than 1 inch of knitting and like very few stitches. I would definitely rather rip it out to make it right. But I know not everyone subscribes to that belief, but that's generally how I like to do things. I get super bothered if there is a mistake in my knitting, so I will nearly always rip it back. So yes, I know plenty of other people who just like go with it and let it be. I wish I were that relaxed, but I'm not. Last up for knitting content today is what I have probably spent the most time working on over the last couple weeks. This was my main project throughout my couple days off this week. It's what I'm calling my, you know, like reset project, like I explained a little bit earlier. So again, I wanted to start something new. I wanted it to be a larger project. I wanted to start either a shawl or a sweater, but I also wanted it to be something that would be kind of quick, which for me, that obviously means something that is in a thicker yarn. Obviously, thicker projects will go faster than fingering weight yarn. So I looked through my stash and I looked through my queue on Ravelry and decided to start the Wellerman shawl by Caitlin Hunter of Boyland Knitworks. I am knitting this out of Forge. This is Hudson and West Company. Forge is their worsted weight yarn. It is 100% wool, 70% US merino, 30% US Corriedale. And again, it is worsted weight and it is in the Raven colorway, which is just black, essentially. It's, you know, hitting the light, so it maybe looks gray, but it's a pretty true black yarn. I have wanted a black shawl for a while. It's maybe not the most exciting thing, but as I've mentioned many times, I love neutrals. I wear black most of the time. And I really wanted a black shawl. So here's where I'm at. This pattern is my absolute favorite type of shawl construction. So it is a triangular shawl, but it is knit from the bottom up, which is kind of a pain to get started. Let's be honest. That means, you know, if you're starting at the bottom, you have to cast on several hundred stitches. But if, you know, we step back a little bit and take a look at the bigger picture, I would definitely rather cast on several hundred stitches than bind off several hundred stitches. So kind of getting past that first like cast on in first row is a little annoying, but once you've got it started, you know, it's bottom up, so your rows get smaller. And I really like this notion of powering through the longer rows of your shawl while the project is like fresh and new and exciting. And then your rows get shorter and it feels like the shawl grows quicker towards the end when you're maybe losing a little bit of steam on that project. So bottom up shawls are my absolute favorite. I love them. But anyways, the shawl kind of follows this patterning the whole way through. It alternates between, she calls this section pathways. It does kind of look like a path. And then she calls this section spindly evergreens, I believe is the phrasing she uses in the pattern. And knitting this in a dark yarn, you know, we are heading into October. It is Halloween month. Things are, you know, spooky, and I love Halloween. I am not much of a like costume person, but I do like kind of the spooky atmosphere and watching scary movies. And I just felt like this shawl like really fit that bill. You know, the pattern and obviously the black color kind of plays into that whole vibe. And yes, even now, like obviously this doesn't really look like much. It's so hard to show. Maybe if I fold it in half. It doesn't look like that much knitting, but again, that's the bottom of your shawl. You have hundreds upon hundreds of stitches and you're working over that. And already my rows kind of feel like they're going faster. And yeah, the cables are just so fun. I love that it's worsted weight. A worsted weight cabled pattern is truly precious to me. I love doing cables and worsted weight. And oh, I think it just looks so good. So this project is moving really fast. I am really actually hoping, you know, not putting pressure on myself, but I think, you know, if I work on this pretty exclusively, it could probably be a finished object by next episode, maybe. I do absolutely need to finish that bunny bonnet by next episode, but maybe I'll have both done. The bonnet's obviously a small project and this is moving along very quickly. So again, that is the Wellerman shawl by Caitlin Hunter of Boyland Knitwork, and it's super fun. If you've never knit a bottom-up shawl, I definitely recommend you try it because it's very, very rewarding to have your rows get shorter instead of longer. It's very motivating. So highly recommend if you've never given it a try. That is it for knitting content this episode. So I will move into sewing content. And this week I have a finished sewing object. Those of you who Those of you who watched last episode may know what I'm about to show you. Like I mentioned, we went to my friend's wedding last weekend and I wanted to make my dress. So I sewed the Arum dress by Deer and Doe Patterns. I used some fabric that I got from Blackbird Fabrics, which is a really great online fabric shop. This fabric is a Midweight Viscose linen Noil in black. Shocker. And yes, here I'm gonna try and show it to you. I'm definitely gonna insert some pictures. Maybe I'll do that now. I took some pictures, or my friend helped me take some pictures on the day of the wedding when I wore this. So you should be seeing those now. So here is the dress. It's quite wrinkly and it needs to be washed. But yes, a couple of the like big characteristics. It's a shift style dress, so it's doesn't have a lot of waist shaping. It's very up and down. It does have some, you can kind of see, the back of the dress is 3 panels, which I believe come together to form what's called a princess seam. I should really verify that. But that was my first time ever doing that. It also had this like really cute pocket, which I talked about last episode. I'm obsessed with this little pocket. It has dolman sleeves, which made it really easy to sew because you didn't have to set in any sleeves. And then it also has a neck facing, which this was my first time doing an interfaced neck facing. I think it turned out really well. It is a little stiff. I don't know if all neck facings are like that. I tried to buy the thinnest interfacing I could get at Joann Fabrics, but it does feel a little stiff. I don't know, just an observation. Some modifications. So I don't know how this is possible, but I talked about last episode, or maybe the one before that, how I made a muslin for this dress just to practice sizing, and that muslin felt a little tight. Like it fit, but just barely. And I had made the largest size of the pattern, but making this, I almost felt like this dress was too big. And I don't know how it's possible that I made a muslin and then made the same dress and it was big. One of life's great mysteries, I think. I did adjust my seam allowance to give myself like an extra ½ inch, but the dress was way bigger than a ½ inch bigger than my muslin. So I actually ended up, especially at the waist, I felt like it is a shift dress. It doesn't have a ton of, it's not supposed to be form fitted, but I did feel like, especially at the waist, things were just like a little too baggy. And so I liked the fit around the chest, I liked the fit around my waist, but then, you know, just the middle around my narrowest part, it felt like it was too baggy. So on the side seams and on those 2 back princess seams, I just tried to like grade it a little bit and like sew just like slightly inside of my seam allowance. Here, I can actually show you. Just to like take it in a little bit at the waist. Let me try and find, turn it inside out. So you can see here, right about here is my original seam. And then I sewed in about a ½ inch. I tried to like slowly grade it in. I feel like that's catching the light really well. but you know, I started at my original seam up here and then slowly graded in about a 1/4 inch at the waist and then slowly graded it back out. And I did that again on the 2 side seams and then on those 2 back princess seams. I kind of marked, you know, a top point and then a bottom point for the top of my waist and the bottom of my waist, and then, you know, graded in that seam a little bit just to like pull it in a little bit. I still, again, didn't want it to be form fitted because that's not the style of the dress, but it just felt aggressively baggy and I felt like it needed something. So I did that. I don't know if that's how you're supposed to handle that sort of thing, but it worked. I really liked the fit. I would probably size down the next time I made this. I can't believe I'm saying that because that was not how I felt about my muslin. But maybe this fabric just stretches a little bit. I don't know. But yes, that's my Arum dress. And I really like this dress because it worked for the wedding. I felt really cool in it. But I also think it's like a really good everyday dress. I almost wore it today, but it's dirty. So I didn't want to do that. Not that you all would really be able to tell, but I would know. It needs a wash. But yes, super fun pattern. It came together really quickly and I'm really happy with the result. The last thing I would like to talk about today is my current sewing project. As I mentioned earlier, I am making a couple of things for my friend's baby. So I am knitting that Mimi bonnet, which has the cute little bunny ears. And then I have never made anything like this before, but I have seen this book for a while and I decided to buy it. It is called Little Traveler by Simone Gooding, and it is full of these, I have no words how cute this is, but it's these cute little stuffed animals, like little forest animals, and they've got all these like little accessories, and it's such a cute book. But anyways, I decided to go along with the bunny bonnet. I wanted to make the baby the rabbit pattern that is in this book. So the author calls this the Thistle rabbit. And again, that's the Little Traveler book by Simone Gooding, in case you're interested. I am still waiting. So all of the animals themselves are sewn out of wool felt, and I had to order some. I did not have any. So I'm still waiting for the wool felt to arrive, but I thought I would get a head start on the bunny's outfit. She has a little dress and she has a little coat. And then she'll also have a little satchel, and there's a carrot that comes with it. I'm not certain I will make the carrot. I'm still thinking about it. These animals are a bit small, and some of their accessories are obviously even smaller. And so, especially because this is a baby gift, I want to be conscientious of the size of things. You know, a lot of these patterns have buttons on them, which I'm not going to do for a baby item. And the carrots, you know, pretty tiny, which it is felt, but I feel weird making something that small for a baby. So I still might make a carrot. I might just try and enlarge it a bit. But anyways, I sewed the little rabbit's dress. All of these clothes are out of scrap fabric. So this is a cotton sateen I used to back one of my quilts. And the dress is still open because you have to actually sew it onto the body of the bunny. So like I said, I haven't even started the bunny itself. And I was getting a little nervous because like this is so small. So I definitely wanted to you know, kind of cease working on the clothes until I actually had the rabbit formed, just to make sure that these clothes would fit. And yeah, the dress is completely double-sided. I made a couple modifications. So the way that the patterns are written, there's a lot of raw edges. And I suppose like you can serge anything, but I don't have a serger. So like, for example, this like ruffle would have been raw, but I just completely like sealed in all of the edges as best as I could to kind of prevent any sort of raw fraying edges. And then I'm supposed to hand stitch this side closed onto the bunny, which will be interesting. I've never tried to sew something like with a 3D object inside of it. So we'll see how that goes. But this is the dress. It's super cute. That's actually the back. This is the front. I wasn't thinking, and I ironed the back, and so now my ruffle on that side just looks a little sad. But the front ruffle looks great. So that is the dress, and then I also got started on the little bunny's coat. So this is the coat so far, not quite done, but I am using leftover linen that I used. If you've been watching for a while, you may remember I sewed a Scout t-shirt for myself out of this fabric. And then the coat has like a little pleat at the back. The details are just so cute. So yeah, I'll have to finish up the edges on that coat, and then it has a little collar. So yes, super cute, coming along pretty quickly. And again, I have French seamed the coat just to prevent any sort of raw edges. I enlarged the pattern pieces a little bit, so I just like added a 1/4 inch on all of the seamed sides so that I could do a French seam and allow for a little bit of extra seam allowance to be eaten up in that French seam. But again, like, this armhole looks so small. Like, I can barely fit 2 fingers in this armhole. And so, you know, if I have to remake the clothes, not a big deal, but I am like nervous that these clothes are gonna be too small for the rabbit. I'm sure it will be fine, but I don't want to keep going until I have actually made the rabbit itself to see if these clothes fit. So anyways, cute little dress, and then the coat will obviously go over it. The coat does call for a button closure, but I think I'm just gonna leave that off. I think the coat will stay just fine on the rabbit without the button. I would feel a bit uncomfortable putting a button on a baby toy. So yes, that again is the Thistle pattern by Simone Gooding, and that can be found in the Little Traveler book that she has published. And that is it for me today. I feel like this episode is really long. I mean, obviously I'm gonna edit this and put it into like one cohesive video, but I feel like it's taken me a long time to record this episode. I've been getting up, walking around, having some coffee in between segments, and you know, maybe the episode won't actually end up being long, but it feels like it took a long time to record. I'm feeling very lackadaisical today. So anyways, if you are new, please like and subscribe if you want to be notified of my next videos. I'm planning to record again in 2 weeks. M. Morrison, again, please reach out to me so that you can claim your giveaway prize. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of your day with me, and I will talk to you all in a few weeks. Bye, everyone.
sorry, the rest of you is going to see